Hey, what's up and hello? This is the Chris Nicole bringing you my views on life, love, and the world of entertainment through my eyes. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on what time you are watching this live. Hello, crew. Hope all is well. Please make sure you hit the likety like button on the way in. This is my review on the Never Ever Met season 2, episode 3, Whining and Dining. And that is the perfect title for this episode. So let's get straight into it because we have a lot to discuss. And yes, we got a lot to discuss. Hey, Southern Belle. Hey, Veronica. Hey, Leo. Yes, absolutely, Leo. So let's get into it because I have a feeling we're going to have a long talk about the main event of this actual episode. So, first things first, child. Alicia and Ervin. After she said she felt unsafe with Ervin and Ervin said, let me get the hell up out of here, she decides to go downstairs and go to the kitchen and ask Ervin if they can talk in her room. And she says, because the energy is off, okay? And I'm like, it's your energy. It's your energy. It's not his. It's your energy. But, she said when you talk, you buck up in your body, your face changes, and it feels like aggression. And I'm like, yeah, because it's called being mad. Who is mad and nothing changes about their face or their body language or their behavior? And trust and believe, if you know someone who's mad and you don't see them change at all in their behavior and their demeanor is the same, smiling or acting like nothing is wrong, trust me, that person is crazy, insane, okay? So to me, I didn't like that. It's giving vibes of her being a Karen and being fearful of freaking black men. Sorry, it just gave me those vibes. I need to know Alicia's background before I completely give up on her because she's coming off like she has more trauma, like I said before, than her autoimmune disease, okay? So at that point, they claim they're gonna work it out, talk it out, or whatever. Honestly, in my personal opinion, Ervin, you need to run for the hills. But she sat up there and said, when you feel like you need to be emotionally and physically safe, definitely, do what you need to do for yourself. But again, something's going on with her. Something's going on with her. And I hope they let us know before the season is over with what else is going on with Miss Alicia. So they begin to have fun and drink, okay? And so, as you guys know, the focus is on Miss Keke. And Keke is ready to party. She even, after someone makes her a drink, we see her ask if she wants vodka or tequila. She asked for vodka or tequila, okay? And somebody was like, damn, like what the hell is going on? So she ends up falling over on a chair because she that buzzed out and ends up sleeping on a couch at one point, okay? So we already have the set background of her pretty much being a party girl. So Jared and Charli talk, and they claim they feel better now that their secrets are out. And he's like, well, how many bedrooms do you have in your house? And she's like, 6. Like, I have a pretty nice house. And he's like, yeah, I seen pictures. Well, I only have 3. And I'm kind of over Columbia. So maybe Dallas will be an option. Maybe I can see about some colleges who will actually kind of like, may want to hire me. Chap. Okay, Jerry. Yeah, we're going to talk about his sorry ass later. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Hit the likety like button, please. So let me get off this liar and move on to it's 2 p.m. Okay, it's 2 p.m. And Keke is still asleep, sucking her thumb. Now, look, Keke comes to my channel. I appreciate Keke. But Keke, you a grown woman sucking your thumb. Now, I don't know if this is you and you suck your thumb when you just got a hangover or you just naturally suck your thumb. you remind me of a cousin of mine who literally got braces, but she still suck her thumb. And I'm like, your teeth are not gonna get straight if you keep sucking your thumb. It's not it. You have to gotta make sure that you stop doing that. So I don't know, Keke, but yes, it is very hard for me to see a grown person sucking their thumb. Love you, girl, but you already know I told you I was gonna keep it real over here. But yeah, honey, she knocked out sucking her thumb. Brandon talks to the actors, okay, about how he feels like, he has a problem with Keke and her drinking. And so at that point, he goes upstairs to wake her up and to talk. And they talk on the balcony. And Brandon was like, last night you were drunk. And she says, I'm a fun drunk. And I was like, okay. She tried to say, well, at least I'm not like a crazy, outrageous type of drunk. Like, I'm a fun drunk. And he said, yeah, but it's about how I feel about the situation, though. And so she mentions that she likes, she wants people to like her and she's more like a social drinker. And I'm like, Keke, your personality shines even without you drinking. It seems like all of those girls in there absolutely adore you. And I don't think it's because you're drinking, it's just because of your personality. But she feels like, I guess maybe that loosens her up to, be able to be social. So he asked her, like, has anyone mentioned your drinking to you before? And she kind of gives like a half story about her friends and her friends like finishing a bottle. And then to kind of change the subject, she says she hungry. And so he decides to say, okay, well, let's go make you some avocado toast and keep it moving. Now, keep in mind when they're on the balcony, they are talking one-on-one. Of course, the cameras are there, but they're talking one-on-one. So he does take a moment to pull her aside and talk to her one-on-one about the situation. But she's kind of dismissive about it. Like, I ain't got no problem. Yeah, my friends maybe have mentioned it, but we'll finish a bottle or whatever the case may be. But I'm a fun drunk. Like, what's the problem? So with that, Ty and Clavassier is talking about Clavassier becoming a vegan. I was like, I don't care about this topic. Next. Then the actors talk to each other about apologizing to each other. Look, this whole Alexis, I can't even remember his name now. I'm calling him fraud. So Alexis the fraud and the other fraud, I don't care about their own little intimate scenes because we know it's intimately fake as hell. So I don't care to hear about what they have going on and how they're staying on script. So at that point, they do, yes, and I'm gonna keep it on this. I'm going to keep it on her sucking her thumb, okay? They do another exercise practicing the Kama Sutra, all right? And what's interesting is that so far they literally keep doing very sensual type of activities. Nothing about the mental, nothing about really knowing that person. You know what I'm saying? So I just found that interesting. I felt like there was more of the mental last season versus this season. But with that being said, of course, you already know who wasn't ready for the sensual of Kama Sutra. Alicia, of course, she's not ready for any of that. And of course, she looked uncomfortable doing the positions. And Ervin looked like he felt uncomfortable because she was uncomfortable in the situation. Yes, please make sure you hit the like button. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Leo. Hit the like button. Take that thumb that you possibly sucking on, whoever listening, and hit the thumbs up button. All right. So at that point, we find out the winner of the exercise is Ty and Britt. And Tati and Clavassier almost won, but I also didn't like Clavassier was doing a little bit too much with him rubbing on Tatiana's booty and like pinching on her booty and stuff. I didn't even like that either. And she also felt uncomfortable. She felt like he was putting on, and I would have to agree with that. But with that being said, she was so uncomfortable that she ended up doing the position wrong. So honestly, hopefully she talks to him about that, but she got so much other stuff to talk to him about, but we're going to keep it moving. So Keke, child, She ends up saying how she's exhausted and she was supposed to be cooking with Brandon for everyone that night. And Alexis was like, well, what's going on? Do you need help? And she was like, yeah, can you make the noodles? And then after that, and after you strain the noodles, can you put them in the freezer for me? And I was like, girl, you sounding like Alicia right now, barking orders in the damn kitchen. Uh Seriously, even if you don't feel good, there have definitely been times when I haven't felt good and I sit down in the chair while I cook. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it got to be that way. But she says she's exhausted. All right. So at that point, you could even tell Alexis and Britt was in there like, well, what the hell are you about to do? But she goes upstairs. All right. And so Clay talks to Jared, all right, about his freaking ex-fiance who moved from LA to Atlanta, and immediately she got preggers, and he was almost kind of like, I don't even know if it's mine, but find out that it is his. That's his daughter. And he's mentioning Tatiana, not knowing how to tell her. And next thing you know, Tatiana overhears somewhat of the conversation and comes outside, and Jared leaves and she goes to Clavase. She was like, what was it that you was talking about? And he was like, oh, talk about he said something about talking about the game or talking about something stupid. She said, no, 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 no. No, no, no. I heard you mention my name and you wanted to tell me something. So what is it? Baby, he got so freaked out. He got so freaked out. He broke the freaking production wall and looked straight up in the camera when she was calling him out like, what you gotta tell me, Craig? What you gotta tell me, Clavassier, right? So he sits up there and lies because it seemed like everybody named Mama's a liar in this freaking house. Sits up there and lies and says, well, I just want to say, like, I might love you. And she was like, might love me, but she already knew something wasn't right. And she was like, I think he is not telling me the truth. And I don't want him to be a liar, girl. He's a liar. He's a liar. He's a liar, which means if he's a liar, he a cheater. And that's just what it is. Meanwhile, Keke is upstairs overheating. She got a bag of ice. She got water and she hasn't been feeling good all day. And Brittany goes upstairs to check on her. And she was like, you're supposed to be down there cooking with your man. And she was like, I know I don't feel good. And Brittany said, well, let me go get Brandon so he knows what's going on. So Brittany goes downstairs and tells Brandon, Keke's not feeling good. And so he goes upstairs to check on her. And she said, look, I'm not feeling good. And he says, is it because of the drinking? And now, mind you, this is based on what we see from editing and everything else. Hopefully, Keke will explain to us maybe some things that we did not see. But she kind of rolls her eyes and says, no, everything is not because of the drinking. And I'm like, true, but it's a valid question because when you drink, it makes you dehydrated and you're dealing with the California heat. So trust and believe, yes, it could be because of the freaking drinking. So he says, well, earlier you said you wasn't feeling good because of the drinking. And she says, I haven't even had a drink today. And so he says, well, do you feel that way because you haven't had a drink? Do you feel like you're sick because you haven't had one? And she said, no, but I feel like it could benefit for me to have one. I said, ooh, child. Ooh, child. Like, she pretty much implied she would feel better if she had a drink. Like, she would feel better and possibly not as hungover if she put a drink in her. I was like, ooh, okay. That's interesting. You guys make sure you hit the like button, please, all the way in. So she says that she feels like Brandon is judging her, trying to control her, and trying to take her fun away. That's what she says. Now, y'all let me know what y'all think about that. I'm going to give my opinion more towards the end because honestly, I see issues on both sides. Yes, I do. That's the Libra in me. But hey, I see issues on both sides. So at that point, Alicia and Ervin go and talk to a therapist, and he feels that Alicia is not affectionate, and he's saying that she's using her trauma to make excuses. And she was like, why would I use my trauma to make excuses? I don't even like to talk about my own trauma. And the therapist tells her, like, well, he doesn't know you yet, and all he knows is you are saying how your trauma, because of your trauma, he needs to be a different person. And I was like, baby, if that's not a word right there, I think a lot of people do that and they don't even realize that they're doing that. You have trauma and you're trying to make someone else change because of your trauma. Absolutely not. That's not how friendships work. Any relationship works. That's not how it goes. So at that point, she was like, you guys need to definitely learn how to communicate better, or whatever the case may be. The other couples, Cinco, Jay, and Ty, are actually helping Brandon with the dinner, because he's actually cooking for 14 people. And so with that, he says the Zoe is kind of corny too. The Zoe is kind of corny. I don't know what you mean by the Zoe is kind of corny, but so yeah, pretty much they're helping him. Now, interesting enough, what's Jay, she was trying to actually defend Keke, because she was like, leave her alone, she's gonna come downstairs, she's getting dressed. But then she looks outside and she said, oh no, she was like, no, she's down here but she's outside. And Cinco was like, man, shut the front door, like, get up out of here, are you serious? She was like, yeah, she's actually outside by the pool. Now, this is where I feel like things started to change, because Cinco decided to put his 2 cents in, giving his opinion about seeing her outside. And Ty was like, I ain't saying nothing, but Cinco felt like he needed to kind of put his opinion in a situation. And I personally think that's when Brandon felt like he had to show up and show out. Like, because I feel like at that point, that's when he was given a condescending tone in a lot of ways. So at that, instead of Cinco staying out of it, and I think even Jay was kind of like, I'm going to stay out of this, but whatever. So Keke's outside, child, and she's talking to Brittany, and she's like, I don't even know if I should go in there, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, girl, you need to go in there because that was your duties for the night. You were supposed to help your man cook. Why are you outside? And you said you weren't feeling well. What the heck is going on? So she decides to come into the kitchen. And he says, you should, well, she actually kind of says sorry, but in my opinion, the sorry didn't seem genuine. It was just kind of like a brush off, like, sorry, or whatever the case may be. And she comes in and she was like, hey, and he was like, are you dependable? In front of everyone. And the other couples, like, just pretty much in front of everyone. And she was like, what do you mean, am I dependable? And he was like, I look up and you're outside, you know what I'm saying? And I'm up in here cooking it by myself. The other couples are helping me. I'm not dating the other couples. Now, inappropriate time to do that, in my personal opinion. That's just like couples arguing in front of the other couples. That's something that you should never do. But at the same time, in the confessional, he says he was really excited to cook with her. It was her favorite meal. She likes hibachi or whatever. And he said it didn't happen. And he said that he was sad about that. And I'm thinking, like, that would have been the best way to explain it to her. But to me, it did come off condescending a little bit, and also trying to put on in front of the other couples. But at the same time, did he have every right to be annoyed? Absolutely. Absolutely, he had every right to be annoyed, because trust and believe, cooking for 4 people. Hell, just cooking for yourself can be a chore, especially if you don't like cooking. But to cook for 14 people and you was pretty much doing it on your own, absolutely not. But here's another thing that I had a problem with. Instead of her sincerely apologizing and saying, I'm so sorry, I know this doesn't look right, let's talk about it later, I'm here to help. When he says that, she just pretty much leaves and walks away and doesn't stay in there and says, I don't know what you want from me, while she's walking away. Keke, he wants you to be there to help him. He wants you to be there as another half of this couple. That's what he wants. So, one, she doesn't seem to like confrontation. He also is triggered by the drinking issue too, which it could be something from his past that he doesn't like the drinking or whatever the case may be. But yeah, she just walked away and I was like, okay. Now, interesting enough, keep that in mind that she walked away, because we're going to talk about what she says later on. So during dinner, Brandon asked how everyone was doing with the process. And, people were saying either yes, they love it or whatever the case may be. And Brandon said it's been surprisingly difficult. And he was like, Keke, what about you? What about you, Keke? And she kind of just looks at him while she playing in her food. And she was like she kind of made this little snarky comment or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so at this point, I'm both of y'all being condescending in this situation, because at that point, to me, she could have just humbled herself and said, you know what I'm saying? It's been a difficult process, but I want to again apologize to people today. I wasn't feeling well, but then of course I went outside instead of coming in. Thank you guys so much for helping, because I know I was supposed to help with dinner, and Brandon, I apologize. That would have been the best option. That would have been the best option, but that didn't happen. Okay. So with that being said, they end up playing a game about who is going to pretty much say yes to their significant other and leave with them, or who's going to say no. Now, interesting enough, we see some yeses, but we see a question mark as an answer. We see a hell yeah. We see a no. We see a F no. And we see a hell to the nah, to the nah. We see all of that, right? And so, of course, people try to figure out who said what, who said this. And so at that point, Brandon makes an announcement and says, I'm tired. Thank you guys, but I'm about to go clean up the kitchen and, do what I need to do in the kitchen. Does Keke go in the kitchen to help him clean at least? No. Keke goes to play pool. That's what she does. She goes to play pool while Brandon not only damn near cooked on his own, but now he's cleaning up. Okay. So she ends up talking to Alicia and Jared, of all damn people. She ends up talking to them because Jared was like, I think I know what you said. I think you said hell no or no. And she said, no, I didn't. I put the question mark. She said, but I know Brandon said no because I saw him write it. And I was like, okay, well, you got some good ass eyes, or better yet, you just saw him make 2 strokes or whatever and realize he said no. So at that point, he's still cleaning, but she says like Brandon has been her best friend for like 4 years. And Alicia was like, you saying that's your best friend? She was like, yeah, but I don't know who that is. That's not my best friend. Child, if he was your best friend, he would have known about you being a party girl, a drinking girl. He would have known about all of that, but it doesn't seem like he knows any of that information, including the information you decided to share with Tatiana later on that we're going to get to. So at that point, she tries to talk to Brandon about him saying no on the card. And he said, look, he said, I'm exhausted. He was like, I cooked, I cleaned, I'm going to work out, and I'm going to bed. And Keke says she feels shut out and she hates feeling like that and hates being ignored. And I said, well, ma'am, you did the same thing to him earlier when he was trying to talk to you. He tried to talk to you on the balcony and he was trying to talk to you about your drinking problem, and you tried to change it up, said, ain't nothing wrong with me and I'm hungry. He tried to talk to you in the kitchen, and granted, you probably don't like the fact that he talked to you in front of everyone, which I think he was to a certain extent trying to put on, because Cinco was like, oh my God, like she outside. But at the same time, you still were wrong. So you should have apologized sincerely, not the brush off sorry, but the apologize sincerely, and stayed in there to help him cook the rest of the food. So you can't get mad and say you don't like feeling shut out or ignored when you did the same thing to him. Both of them are triggering at this point, and both of them, in my opinion, need to work on their communication. But definitely with her, she needs to work on her communication as well. So Cinco and the rest of the couples are sitting down at the table, and Cinco is like, Keke ain't that damn sick. She ain't that damn sick. She sat up there and said she was sick, and then she walked to the pool and went into the same heat that she claimed was making her sick in the first place. You was just complaining about that heat, right? So then Keke walks in, honey, with a glass of wine. A glass of wine, okay? And so they talked to her about how they feel in the situation, or better yet, how Brandon possibly felt about the situation. And so Brandon also walks in at that moment. And so he sits up there and he explains his view of things and how she was acting. And she was like, because you kept bringing it up. And he gets up and he's like, how are we over the drinking part? Because she said we were over the drinking part. Why are you bringing it up? And he stands up and he says, how are we over the drinking and you're drinking again? Baby, she says, this is wine. She looks like he's stupid. Like, this is wine. Like, this isn't a drink. And I'm thinking, like, baby girl, you do know wine is alcohol too, and you could get drunk off of wine. Like, when she said that, I said, Keke, there may be a problem here. There may be a problem when you sit up there and people try to compare certain alcohols and say one is not really an alcohol. No, baby. That's like people saying champagne is like apple cider, or champagne is like juice. No, all of it is alcohol. Certain percentages are higher than others, but all of it is alcohol. So he said, you need to be drinking some damn water. You claim you wasn't feeling good. You claim you hung over. Drink some water. Get it out of your system. And so Ty is like, it's obvious that Brandon cares, because if he didn't care, he wouldn't be talking to you this way. And he wouldn't be talking about it at all. And he said, you know what? It's a done deal. And pretty much says, if you don't care about yourself and you don't care about getting yourself better, then I don't need to care about you. Like, why should I care? And he's like, I'm going to bed. Point blank, period. Right. And so she leaves the situation. Well, she doesn't leave. She kind of just sits there looking sad. And then the next thing we know, we see Keke and Tatiana talking. And so Keke mentions that her mother passed. And when her mother passed, she did turn to the bottle. And she says she doesn't like that because she feels like there are other ways to cope. Now, interesting enough, I would like to know if Brandon even knows this. Does Brandon know that she turned to the bottle when her mother passed? I would hope that he at least knows that the mother passed. But does Brandon know this? It's just interesting to me that she seems to be more vulnerable with the other people in there, but she doesn't want to be vulnerable with him. So at that point, she says she's been sad all day and she feels lonely, but she doesn't want to keep Tatiana from her man because hers isn't there with her. Now, the reality is, I think Keke is a sweet girl, but I do feel like she lacks some communications. She has communication issues, and Just because you're a sweetheart and just because you're soft spoken doesn't mean that you're not problematic. There's definitely something there. But at the same time, Brandon, in my opinion, there's something there too. I just think both of them can't really communicate well. But Brandon had every right to be upset. That's my opinion on the situation. He had every right to be upset. The delivery at times to me was inappropriate, but I can also understand, even with Cinco trying to add fuel to the fire, I can understand his frustration because he did try to talk to her one-on-one. Remember, I said earlier he talked to her one-on-one on the balcony. He tried to talk to her one-on-one. He tried to get through to her one-on-one. But again, to me, she's coming off like she does have her guard up about drinking, because it sounds like, as much as she doesn't want to admit it, people have talked to her about her drinking before. And that's why she's on the defense, which is why the first freaking episode, when she was like, I need a couple of more of that dranky drink. And he was like, do you got a drinking problem? She was like, are you the Prosecco police? I was like, okay. The reality is, it seems to me that you've heard this before. So when people do talk to you about drinking, you automatically get on the defense mode. So that already is another sign that there is possibly a problem. And you need to go to therapy about healing with the trauma of losing a parent, which I know has to be extremely devastating. But you don't go towards the bottle, you go towards therapy. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to make you better by using the bottle as a way to cope. And condolences to her, because that definitely had to be, you know what I'm saying, rough on her. I don't know when it happened. I don't know if this was recent, but I'm curious to see when Keke and Brandon actually sit down with the therapist, because you know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. I'm curious to see how much he knows and how much they're willing to talk about their trauma. She turned to the bottle because of her trauma. I would be curious to see if Brandon has trauma behind a parent or a loved one who had a drinking problem as well. You know what I'm saying? So this is why he could be responding the way that he's responding, because he's seen someone have a drinking problem in his upbringing and he ain't rocking with that. You know what I mean? So it'll be very interesting. I'm kind of curious to see. I know some of you guys is like, I am not a Keke fan, or whatever the case may be. I'll tell you this, I'll take Keke over Alicia any damn day. I'll tell you that. At least right now, I'll still take her. Now, hopefully she realizes that she was wrong in this episode, or maybe she's about to tell us that the editing made her look a certain way. I don't know. I don't know. She definitely has been coming to the channel and giving me her take on things. So I would be curious to see what she has to say about this particular episode. Because, boo-boo, it didn't look good. It didn't look good. You looked like a mixture of being defensive, having a communication problem, being lazy, and making an excuse of not feeling good. But at the same time, you were out in the pool, like by the pool in the heat. It was giving everything that you just want to do what you want to do. And you're not willing to compromise, which is what you have to do in a relationship. Point blank, period. Even in a friendship, like, I don't feel that it was fair that the couples were helping during your night to cook. You know what I'm saying? So definitely. But moving on to the final BS of it all. Whoo, child. Brandon, Cinco, Jared, and what is this fool's name? The actor. Is it Chris? I don't even know his name no more. The actor. They all out throwing the football. And so we find out Jared is the one who said F no on the paper. Yes, indeed. He said F no. And Cinco and them was like, excuse me, you said F no? Because we already know Brandon said no. And we know the actor said hell to the nah. Cinco, of course, said, yeah, he ain't had no issues with Jay yet. But he said, oh, I'm the one who said F no. And they was like, man, get the heck up out of here. You said F no. So we find out of the 7 guys, I guess, 4 of them said no. So we know that 3 of them are out there. We know that Jared said no. We know that Brandon said no. We know the actor said no. So they was like, is it Ervin? Maybe Ervin is the one who said no. We already know his ass said no. We already know. But with that being said, the reason why Jared said that he said no is because he said 6 kids in the house is freaking crazy. That's a lot of damn kids. Then why in the hell are you still here when you know dang on well you do not want to deal with them kids? Now, Charli, like a dummy, sat up there and got this man's name tatted on her. And we find out why he's holding on. Because he hasn't what they call cracked her yet. He ain't had no freaky tales with her yet. So he's playing the game so he can get some freaky tales before he dump her. Oh, he's a POS. Oh, he's a POS. And he literally says that I ain't cracked her yet. I'm going to get me some nookie before I sit up there and give her the bad news. But then check this out. Charli goes to him in the house and she tells him that she's the one who said hell yes. And with a straight face, smiling at her like he's so in love, looking at her eyes to eyes, not even flinching. He's like, oh, yeah, you said hell yeah. I said yes too. I said yes too. And she was like, really? You know, because I couldn't really feel your energy at the time. He said, no, I said yes. I said yes. I said yes. Yes, I love this. I say yes. Oh, give me a hug. Give me a hug. And even the actors looking at him like, is this ninja serious right now? Like, you gonna straight lie to her in her face, and then he sits up there and walks off with her hand in hand, but in his confessional pretty much says he ain't giving up until he get a little lovey love, and I guess after that he gonna sit up there and break it off with an ass. Trifling. Straight up. But guess what? We're both trifling. She's trifling for holding a baby behind his back, pregnant while she was still with him, and he trifling for having a kid while he was with her. They are both trifling. They're both trifling. And honestly, as much as I feel like it's trifling what Jared is doing, Charli seemed like she about that life. So maybe she trying to test the equipment too, and she ain't gonna have no hard feelings. I don't know. Because clearly she like to get it in. She like to get it in. She got 4 kids. I would like to know how many baby daddies. But yeah, so I personally feel like a good woman that you definitely don't need to be doing that. I still say he don't need to do it to Charli. But again, Charli's not innocent in this situation either. It's not. Yes, exactly. She has his name tattooed on her. But what does that even matter when you was clearly having a baby behind his back? Both of you guys were. There's no loyalty there. There's no loyalty. How is it 6? She has 4. He has 1. No, he has 2, Veronica. He mentioned he has 2. He already had 1, and he just recently had a newborn. So he has 2 and she has 4. So I guess she only knew about the 1, and he had another one recently, and he only knew about her 1, and she got 3 other ones. This is what I'm saying. They belong together. They both trifling as hell. So with that being said, that's when the episode goes off. When I tell you at this point, I'm like, I don't know who's genuine at this point. As much as I feel like Ty is corny as hell, he and Brittany may be the main like genuine ones in the damn house at this point. Who do y'all feel like is a legitimate, genuine couple? I would say Jay and Cinco, and maybe Ty and Brittany. You know what though? But they shocked us last season. For all we know, it could easily be Alicia and Ervin that make it to the damn end. I don't know, you guys. At this point, I'm not going to assume, but it's definitely some shady nonsense going on in that house. And it's about to get a little bit more spicy based on the next episode. I want to know who's Charli's men's are to have a 6-bedroom home. Depending on where she live in Dallas, a 6-bedroom home is obtainable. She may not live in the actual city because I hear the city is crazy expensive, but she could live in a suburb where she could still probably get her like a 6-bedroom home. And depending on how long she been there too, she could have easily back in the day got a 6-bedroom home within the $200,000-$300,000 range. Now I don't know, but that was definitely easy to do back in the day. But yeah, I don't know you guys at this point, but so what do you guys think before we go? Who do you think was in the wrong? Do you think both Brandon and Keke was in the wrong? Or you guys feel like Keke was absolutely wrong? You know what I'm saying? What do you guys think before we go? Based on what I was trying to see, even though I was making sure I got through my review, it looks like a lot of you guys are saying y'all don't like Keke and y'all feel like Keke was in the wrong. But again, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But I could definitely see why. I could see why Brandon was upset. And I'm hoping that Keke recognizes that maybe she needs some help and she gets it. That she actually gets it. But she does seem like she is a sweet girl. But again, just because you're sweet doesn't mean that you're not problematic and you have things that you have to work on. Hell, we all got stuff to work on. Like if you one of those people who feel like you don't have to work on nothing or you have a know-it-all energy, it's very unattractive. I don't like people like that. So hopefully she realizes there's things that she needs to work on and learns. And whether that's with Brandon or without Brandon, maybe she learns from this. But with that being said, child, you know already they got people in the damn chats talking about Brandon is fine. If she don't want to act right, I'll take them. And it's like, here we go. But at the end of the day, hey, we'll have to continue the conversation and see what people think. Are they team Brandon? Are they team Keke? Or are they team no one in this situation? But with that being said, you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please hit the like button. Please hit the like button. It gets me in the algorithm. Likety like. Please, for your girl, hit the like button. So with that being said, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on my next live or my next video, which will be in roughly about another hour or so. All right. So, toodles.